Hi everybody, Adrienne here, and today I'm coming to you with I Heart Revolution's Chocolate Orange palette. The palette looks like this. This is probably my fifth or sixth chocolate bar from I Heart Revolution, Makeup Revolution, whatever they're calling themselves. Today I can't keep it straight. This palette came in a box that looks like this, and it's got the color swatches on the back. I'm going to look and see. I'm sure it says how many, but I'm not going to be able to read it without my glasses on, how many shades are in here. I want to say there are 16 shades. I'm going to go ahead and open this and show it to you. It did come with one of those sponge tip applicators, and I haven't used it yet. It is the old style of the palette. That's why it still has a sponge tip applicator. Also, the old style palettes have the little insert sheet, and I just can't even keep this thing. Once I lay it on the table, I don't see it, but it's got all the names on it. And so they're not printed in the palette. And also it has these larger pans of highlighting shades, where the newer style chocolate bar palettes, all of the colors are this one size. I think there's 16 colors in this palette. If not, I will put the correct number out to the side. These palettes are really nice packaging because it's got this mirror with it, and I do like the mirror a lot. The only thing is I don't travel with my chocolate bar palettes because I'm scared if they get jarred around in the bag that the plastic will crack, because they can be kind of fragile if you're not careful with them. So I wouldn't say this is a palette that you necessarily want to travel with, but if you've got it packed well and wrapped in something, it would be nice to have it because of this large mirror. And I'm going to go ahead and get into some swatches on my hands of this palette. I've gone ahead and swatched the palette so I can show you guys what the colors look like, and I'm going to try to hold this up at the same time. I don't know how this is going to come into focus. I do have a new lens on my camera, and the autofocus is a booger sometimes, so I'm going to look over at my monitor and see what's going on, and I don't think I'm going to be able to hold both at the same time, so I will sit the palette down. But this is what the colors in the palette look like. So obviously it's an orange palette, so it's a true warm autumn type palette, but depending on what your undertones for your skin are and your preferences, this might be an all year round palette for you. And as you can see, these colors are swatched really well. I do have moisturizer on my hands, and there was a couple of mattes that I did go over twice to build the intensity, but most of it was because they were so close to my skin tone. I have created two looks with this palette, the look that I'm wearing right now, and also another look that I will be showing you throughout this video. I tried to use every color in the palette with the exception of, I don't typically go for these shimmer shades because I'm not that into highlighters. I could have tried these because this one really looks pretty golden, and this is what that last shade is that I pointed out, but it's kind of ashy for my skin tone, so I really didn't see the need to use this color, so I kind of skipped out on this one, and let's see, this one, because this one is kind of a taupish color, and it's not really flattering on my skin tone, and it doesn't show up, and it pulls ashy, but pretty much everything else you'll see I use. So without further ado, I'm going to show you two looks using this palette, and we'll come back and talk about what it was like to work with this palette. To start this look off, I've already primed my eyelids with MAC's Prep and Prime 24-hour extended wear eye base and MAC Paint Pot Laying Low. And the shade that I'm using right now to set the primer is Clementine. And I'm taking an e.l.f. blending brush and I'm going in with the shade Silky Smooth in the crease to transition. I'm finding that this shade builds up really quickly if you pat it on instead of using the blending smudging effect. I like it when colors go down quickly like that with just light tapping motions. It's not nearly as irritating on the eye, so that's a plus. Now I'm going in with the MSQ brush, and I'm sorry I can't tell you guys what that brush is exactly because it came in a set and it doesn't say individually what they're named, and I'm using the color orange. Just adding more dimension with different shades in the crease. And it's blending really well. No patchiness with any of these mattes so far. Now I'm going to use a little bit of MAC's Fix Plus spray to get the shimmer shade to adhere a little easier. And that is the shade Chocolate Orange that I'm putting on the eyelid. And as you can see, I'm needing to do quite a bit of tugging to get that color to apply. I find that using the downward motion a lot of times helps that color to pack on a lot easier when it won't apply. And I'm not really sure what's going on with the hole there that I see towards the inner corner of the eye where the pigment just isn't sticking. But I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next eye. And again, lots of tugging to get that color to lay down. I am using a Mary Kay concealer brush to apply this color. Typically helps to get the shimmer shades on a lot faster. With another MSQ brush, I'm going into the color Nibble to blend in with the chocolate orange shade to add some transitioning on the lid so it's not one flat color. And that's packing on really fast, so I'm very pleased with that. It's a really intense color, also a beautiful shade of orange. Not quite burnt orange, but almost on its way. And going back in with that e.l.f. contour brush, I'm taking the shade Clementine again just to blend out the edges and to go closer to the brow bone so the MAC Laying Low paint pot doesn't look so stark white. Now I'm going in with a Jessup tapered blending brush with the shade Segment for contouring the outer V. And this color is building up rather nicely. It's a deep brown. It's not anywhere near close to black, so it's going to take a little bit of layering, I believe, to get that intensity built where I want it. But that's okay because I'm not someone that always has to have the darkest outer V to be happy with the look. Just as long as I get the depth and dimension, I don't mind what the shade range is. Trying to apply it more in a packing motion first on the other eye just to see if I can get it to go on a little bit faster. And once again, it's blending out really nicely with that Jessup tapered blending brush. I'm going back in with the e.l.f. blending brush and applying more of that silky smooth color just so I don't lose the light orange to blend the edges out. Now in the inner corner, just to add a little pop of shimmer, I'm going in with the shade Gift. And just to highlight the eye, I'm just going in to give a little center pop with that shade Gift, just to spotlight the center of the eye so it's not one flat color all the way across. And I'm applying that with the Artistry brush. I'm not even sure that's made anymore. The brush is dry. I did not spray it with any MAC Fix Plus, so that shimmer is all straight from the pan. It's taken a little bit to build the intensity of it where I want it to be. And just going back with a little more of that orange. And this is the completed look. I've also used the Conceal and Define concealer and foundation. Pretty soon I will have a review up of that with this finished look. Getting started with this look, I've primed my eyes the same way I did for the first look, and I'm going in with that e.l.f. blending brush using the shade Ribbon. This matte shade is also blending very easily, and it's not feeling like it's taking a lot of tugging to set that primer. Now taking the e.l.f. blending brush, I'm going in with the shade Peel. And it's another rusty orange shade. It's also packing on really easily with the tapping motion. This pigment's laying down really fast. It's definitely along the lines of a burnt orange, but it has more red in it. I think it's a really pretty shade. Now I'm going in with another MSQ blending brush with the shade Smash to soften some of the darkness of the Peel shade that I applied before. This shade is also blending really nicely. Now I'm going back in with the e.l.f. contouring brush using the shade Ribbon to soften the edges of that transition shade so the primer isn't so light near the brow bone. I'm going to use MAC Fix Plus again to wet my brush. And I'm applying the color Tap to the lid. This shade seems to be tapping on a little easier, no pun intended, than the first shade that I used on the lid in the first look that I completed. Just completing the same thing on the other eye. Not sure if it's the angle I'm at, but it seems like it's taking a little more tugging. Going in with Conceal and Define to prime my eyelids so I can give that halo eye a little more pop. Now I'm going in with the shade Gift to create that halo eye. Such a pretty color, gold. And it appears to be packing a punch right away. For the outer V, I'm going in with the shade Segment, using an MSQ blending brush. And to contour the brown bone, I've gone in with the shade Lush. It is a shimmer shade. And I'm taking that e.l.f. contouring brush and going back in with the shade Gift to soften the edges. And I'm going back into that center halo with the color Gift just to give it a little more pop, and I'm going to go and intensify the tappet color on the outer corners again. And just blending more with the color Peel. To finish the look, I went in on the bottom lash and smudged the shade Peel and Segment and used a black eyeliner. Okay, you guys, talking about working with this palette. Overall, you know, I'm very pleased with the looks that I've gotten from this palette, but it does perform like a drugstore palette. A lot of the matte shades are very pigmented, and I do like that about it, that, you know, you saw that the color went on right away as soon as I started packing it on or blending it in. But there were this shade here, when I put it on the more subtle look on the lid, this one was really hard to build with the brush dry or wet because I used that MAC Fix Plus, and I had a really hard time building the intensity of this shade, so that wasn't a lot of fun to work with. And a lot of time, if you want this highly metallic foiled look with the Makeup Revolution or Revolution shadows, you typically do have to wet your brush, and I'm very familiar with the formulation of their eyeshadows. Sometimes they can be hard to build, and you really do have to put them down and press a little and give a tug as you're going across the eyelid to get that shade to build up. So sometimes that can be a little bit frustrating, and as you can see, you do get hard pan in your palette, and I don't really care for that. It doesn't seem to affect the palettes when you use them, because like I said, I have several Revolution palettes, but that does happen to them. The matte shades don't seem to do that. I will say that I do like the formulation of the matte shades, but this one here, this shade here, has a lot of kick up. You can see, I don't want to blind you too bad, but there's kick up all over the mirror. As soon as you put your brush in it, it kind of goes everywhere. That doesn't really bother me, but if you're someone that doesn't like that, go into this shade with a light hand. That's the only shade that I noticed that does that really bad. Overall, I am, like I said, pleased with the looks I got, and that's what I look for in a drugstore palette, because this palette was, I think, $16, $15 or $16. I think it was $16 though with this packaging. If I can get a really good look out of it, that's what I'm most concerned with when I'm in a drugstore palette. I know that some of them can go on really easy and perform like high-end palettes, but overall, for the most part, if I'm working with Revelations metallic shades, I don't find that. I take it back. Sometimes there are some of their palettes where it seems like the metallic shades do go on well, but I'm never surprised if I have to work at building them. I like themed palettes, so it's nice to have a themed palette where you know you're just going to get a bunch of warm oranges. So I'm really excited to have that. And this palette smells really good. It doesn't smell like the other chocolate bars. It actually has an artificial orange smell, or I would say more like a clementine. It's very candied smelling. It's not overbearing. I don't smell it once I have it on my eyes. And I don't smell it right now, even being this close to my face, unless I lean down and go to smell it. But I really did like this palette. I did think it took quite a bit of work though to build that first look up, especially like I said with that shade there. But if you're patient, you can get a good look out of this palette. And like I said, not that swatches mean anything, but when you look at the swatches, it swatched so well, and the pigmentation was there immediately. I think it's a really good value for $15, $16, however much it is. It's very reasonable. And like I said, the only cons I have to it are those few shades that it took extra work with to build up. But, you know, it is a drugstore palette. And also this hard plastic casing, you don't want to travel with these. One of my chocolate bar palettes, and I don't even know how, like a piece of this is chipped off right here where it latches. So you just don't even pull hard. You just barely touch it and it will open. So that's why I've decided that I won't be taking mine on any trips. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. You're also going to want to hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button so YouTube notifies you every time I upload a new video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you soon.